Well, shucks, howdy. Good evening, good morning, good whatever it is, wherever you are, and welcome back to Sudden But Inevitable, the sci-fi rewatch podcast dedicated to single-season space westerns that were canceled mercilessly before their time. I, of course, am your host, Captain Bootscoot, aka Vanilla Husband, aka Jesse. Welcome back to the show. And joining me, of course, this week is my very long-time friend and co-host, Josh. Welcome back to Sudden But Inevitable, Josh. How are you doing this week?
I'm doing good. I just got kicked out of the room as the intro video was starting. I don't know what happened there, but if I suddenly leave at some point, that's probably why. I don't know. Other than that, I'm doing great. I always love Fridays. Fridays are my favorite day of the week, especially in very stressful times.
There are a million reasons for Friday to be your favorite day of the week, even if it's not podcast day for you. Really quickly, I'm going to say hello to Rona in the live chat. Good morning, Rona. Thank you for being here with us. I'm also going to say good morning, and I think good morning to our friend Angelus in the live chat. Angelus, what time is it there in Australia? Please let me know. Josh, I have to agree with you. Like I said, Friday, best day of the week. Do you know why? Because we get to talk to this next person every Friday. And that person, of course, is Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. Ricky D, welcome to Friday. How is your week?
Really good. I think we're off to a good start in the podcast. If we're automatically kicking Josh out, this is a great way to start. So I'm excited about today's episode.
Dang.
I have a feeling that I just figured out how Josh got kicked out during the intro video. But let's all just hold hands and hope that our next friends don't get kicked out, because they are making their very first appearance ever here at Sudden But Inevitable. Okay, we are very, very excited to welcome, for the first time ever, Chris and Leslie of Measuring the Score. Chris and Leslie, welcome to Sudden But Inevitable. How are you guys doing this week?
Oh, we are
It's been a long
tired.
week.
We are both tired.
Worked hard all week
but
long.
we are excited to be here.
Right. The highlight of our week.
Thank you. I'm sensing a running theme that people don't want to talk about what happened during their week. They want to talk about what happened in this week's episode of Cowboy Bebop, which is, of course, what we are all here to discuss, and that is episode 9, Blue Crow Waltz. Really quickly, going to take a moment to say hello to our friend Jake Stone in the live chat. Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Thank you for being here, Jake. I am just brimming with excitement to get into this episode, you guys, and I am so happy to say hello to all the people here in the live chat. Before we jump into this full force, Chris and Leslie, for the folks at home that have never listened to Measuring the Score before, please, what is Measuring the Score, and where can the folks find more of it?
Measuring the Score is basically, I'm a composer. I've been doing it for almost 20 years. Leslie is a musician. And we discuss film scores and the films to see how they work together, see if, they measure up. And we offer, basically our opinions on the film scores as much as possible. And they can find us pretty much anywhere that there are podcasts available. Spotify, Apple, anywhere. You can talk to us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter or Facebook mainly. I think that's about it. Leslie, anything?
Yeah. So when we listen to the scores, we critique it. We have a little measuring scale that we go by. We answer 3 questions at the end of our, critiquing and, rate the score that way. Sometimes Chris and I agree. Sometimes we don't. We're married. So,
It works.
sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't.
Yes, sometimes Josh and I agree. Sometimes we don't. We're not married. Sometimes Ricky D and I agree. Sometimes, usually, we don't. We actually almost never agree. So, actually, that's not true. You know what Ricky D and I do agree on is the general level of quality that surrounds the name Cowboy Bebop. I think that's
Quality.
something that we can agree on. Yes.
We agree on
And-
quality.
And we agree that we are very happy to welcome our friend Callie D to the live chat. Good morning, Callie D. Thank you for being here with us this week. As every week, our friend Angelus has already submitted his picks for this week's segment. You guys, I am so excited to jump into this. Okay, before I just keep talking in whatever direction seems normal to me, let's jump into this episode, you guys. This episode, as I said before, is season 1, episode 9. Yes, I said season 1 because we plan to hashtag save Cowboy Bebop and get hashtag more Bebop. But this episode is called Blue Crow Waltz. And I have to ask Chris and Leslie, before we jump into this episode in particular, have the two of you ever seen the original Cowboy Bebop anime? And if you have, tell us about that. If you haven't, then that's cool, but tell us all about your experience. Leslie, let's have you go first, and then Chris.
So, I have never seen it. I lived in Germany for the longest time, and overseas I didn't watch much TV. So, even coming back to the United States when Chris and I started dating, he was like, "Yeah, you need to watch this." I'm like, "I've never seen it." He's like, "What? You never seen that?" No. So we would have movie marathons, show marathons, that sort of thing, trying to, I guess, get me caught up on the lost years that I was not in the U.S. And Cowboy Bebop kind of fell into that crevice. So no, I've never seen it.
Slipped through the cracks. What about you, Chris?
I watched it back when Cartoon Network was, I think it was around the time they had like Cow and Chicken and stuff like that, and then they started the the very first iteration of Adult Swim. And I watched a lot of episodes, but I didn't finish the season. And it was one of those shows, I hate to say, that I kind of brain dumped because I don't remember anything about it. And I didn't think nothing else about Cowboy Bebop until I come across your podcast, and you were talking about bringing us on for the anime. And I was like, oh, I need to watch the show. Still haven't been able to watch it because it's just, with everything going on. And then when you're like, hey, we need to get you on for the live action, I'm like, you know what? I haven't watched the live action either. So I'm not saying it's a bad show, because from what I do remember of the show, it was great because I love anime. I mean, but especially the opening intro and the song by Seatbelts. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
And also, there was a fan film that was being put out by Iron Horse Cinema. Gotta give these guys credit. They were trying to do like a live action Cowboy Bebop trailer, and they were trying to get me to do the remix of the song, and I said, there's no way I could touch that. So I created like a little bit of the intro music for the trailer, which sounded like something from Blade Runner, and that's what they wanted. Then they used the original intro song for the trailer. So yeah, that's my experience with Cowboy Bebop.
Oh man, that's really cool. So the thing that I really like about that is that you guys are probably the freshest set of eyes, so to speak, that we
Yes.
have had on the series with us and here as guests. I mean, I think almost everybody that we have had before has either seen the entire original series or they've watched up to, this point or further in the new series. So I'm really interested to hear what you guys think. And I'm glad that you mentioned Tank, because I'm definitely going to be asking you questions about music.
Oh, yeah.
We will get into that, of course, as I'm sure will just happen naturally over the course of our conversation.
That's one of my favorite things about having you guys on here, though, too, is the fact that we can talk a little bit more about the music. Because, like, I can talk about music, but these guys, when I start talking about music, kind of give me that deadpan look where they're like,
Please,
To be fair, usually when you start talking about music, you're talking about like some emo punk music that nobody has ever heard and I don't recognize. So
Not on this show.
I'm sorry. I was very confused. I'm sorry. I thought you just meant like in general. I'm sorry, Josh. That's totally on me. No, he's 100% right. Josh is totally 100% right. That's totally on me. My apologies. So to that point though, Josh, what do you think about the waltz? What do you think about the music? Let's just start. What do you think about this opening scene where we learn maybe the least surprising thing ever, which is that Vicious has blade fetish and is a little weird about it. I really like this. Spike has this look on his face like everything was handled. It's fine. What do you? Come on, man. And
Well,
Vicious
there's a lot of weird things about this opening scene. I mean, first of all, there's the knife talk. Like the close up on Vicious' mouth is already disturbing enough as it is, and then like all the knife talk and all the like sensual knife talk, and then from the sensual knife talk over to the pube hair talk, and talking about braiding hairs. Like, I mean, I related a little bit, but like,
That's-
it's still kind of weird to talk
That's all
about.
one conversation. What are you talking about? The sensual knife talk is part of that conversation. That makes perfect
But
sense.
Is
Well,
that
it's
what you
all
normally
two
get into
different
after you talk
subjects,
about
so-
knives?
I mean,
Go to the
I just-
hunting store and just strike up a talk about pubic hair.
Yeah, like, I really like this knife. What do you think about using colored rubber bands when I braid my pubic hair? Like,
I think depending on the state that you're in and the hunting store, you might not make it out of that hunting store. Let's just put it that way.
You would certainly get some
probably.
looks. I mean,
looks.
Let's just call them follow-up questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe the police.
Yeah,
Start hearing firing.
But okay, I mean, let's be real about this. Okay, this really does. This is the kind of relationship that we have all had, right? Everybody has a friend that they talk about stuff with that they probably don't talk about with all their friends, right? Or everybody in their life, right? There are people who you talk about things with that you don't talk about with other people. So I like that we get an insight into. I mean, is it fair to call them Jules and Vincent? Like, I mean, it's not, right? Because
No, it's
technically,
absolutely fair. Are you
No,
kidding
because-
me?
Spike and Vicious came before Jules and Vincent originally. So it's, if I'm not mistaken, is that a mistake? What year did Pulp Fiction come out? Was that 97?
Oh, way
Bebop
before.
was 98.
Cowboy Bebop is way
Damn.
before. I think
Anyways,
wasn't Pulp Fiction like 95 or something?
oh, you know what I'm thinking is the intro to the movie where we got confused as to which one came out first. The Cowboy Bebop movie, because it heavily mirrors
Oh.
Pulp Fiction. That's entirely on me. But yes,
Okay.
so
okay.
as an exercise, we could just call them Jules and Vincent, right? But we won't, because there is a character in Cowboy Bebop named Vincent. This is getting confusing.
And
Anyways,
Jules, kind of.
yes,
I'd call Julia Jules.
I like that they. Dang it, this is going to be really confusing. I like that we.
Yeah, I've
have
already
this
forgotten
insight.
everybody's names now. Thank you.
I'm surprised you knew them. Angela's Pulp Fiction 1994. Thank you.
Thank you.
For
I
hooking
said
us up with
95.
that.
I was close. I wouldn't have won
Yeah.
on the Price is Right, but whatever.
Oh, that's true, because you did go over.
I did go over.
I don't mean this in a mean way, but Skinny Drew Carey weirds me out. Is that just me?
No. I agree.
no, yeah, definitely.
Kind of looks bizarre to me.
But I'm super happy for him because I would imagine he's much healthier now.
It's like
right?
skinny Kevin Smith is the same way. A little
Right,
bit.
he's much healthier now, and you want Kevin
Or
Smith to live
skinny Seth
forever.
Rogen.
Skinny Al
Oh,
Roker.
man.
Oh,
He lost all that weight. You're like,
oh,
really?
Ricky's about to leave the chat.
Just so that we're like, yeah, let me just wrangle this digression. We're very happy for all of those people.
oh yeah.
What I was trying to say, I think, was I like these moments of relatability even with psychotic level criminals, right? Where we have them going, hey man, giving each other a hard time at work, and they do things differently. Like I said, I feel like that look that hand motion that Vicious does when Spike puts his hands up, like, why did you just stab that guy 15 times? He's like, hey, we're killing
Dude, what a
him.
way to
What does it
shank someone.
matter?
Pimp,
Like-
pimp, pimp. Like, whoa, dude.
Well, but it's like he looks at Spike like, are you really gonna nitpick about this? He's dead. What do you want? Like,
Yeah, we got the job done. I mean, come on.
but there is a practicality to what Spike is saying, right? Like, I mean, Ricky,
Right.
you have seen how many hits on film? Ballpark it.
How many hits?
Yeah, like guys getting killed by
Oh.
criminals.
I'm gonna go with gotta be in the thousands.
Right. So the reason you don't stab people is because it's easier to clean up, right?
Yeah.
Now, is garrote the correct pronunciation? I thought it was garrote, but I'm
I would
sorry.
say garage.
yeah. Anyways, what did you guys think about this code that Spike mentions here at the beginning of this episode? Let's start with you, Chris and Leslie. You guys are learning for the first time that Spike is a syndicate assassin, right?
Right.
Spoiler alert, that's not mostly what this show is about. This whole episode is a flashback, just so that you guys are fully aware.
Yeah, that's what I was
we
kind
kinda
of gathering.
figured. We were talking
Yeah.
about that when it started. But what I found that I liked about that first scene that you're talking about is the stark contrast between Vicious's, white hair, and they're dressed in black, and then Spike and his his attire, and to me it was just visually beautiful to see that first scene. Granted, it was kind of a weird scene, but visually it was stunning to see the contrast there between his long white hair contrasted to what he was wearing, as opposed to his partner was wearing kind of all black with the red tie. I kind of like that.
Well, it was also it was kind of a yin yang type situation going on, and showing you the stark contrast between the two. I mean, their Spike is trying to show his demeanor like, hey man, like we got this, it's all good. And Vicious is just, pretty much what his name is, Vicious. I mean, he's psychopath, and you see that from right there from the very beginning that he's unhinged, and it's showing you like, hey,
something's wrong with him.
He's got a screw loose. He is one chicken nugget short of a Happy Meal, and so yeah, I mean that's what you're kind of seeing right then and there, just right there at the very beginning, just showing you where this episode's going. This guy's going to go off the rails, and it's not going to be pretty when it happens. And Spike's going to be the one trying to keep peace of the entire thing because he's laughing, joking around, and everything else. And of course, it's not a pretty sight almost.
I actually chalked it up to this is Spike's greatest superpower, and this fits so well with the entire original series and every episode we've had up to this point. Spike's greatest superpower is to act cool when he's under pressure, like
right,
and at all times, right? And he knows when to just chill for a second and breathe.
Yeah.
And sometimes that leads to the kind of decisions he makes at the end of the episode, and we'll get to that. But usually it leads to him being the more level-headed of this, classic hitman duo. I mean, come on, they're a classic hitman duo, right?
It really is. It really is. Like you said, Jules, from Pulp Fiction, and it's pretty much what it is. It is exactly right then and there. Vicious, I would say, would be Samuel Jackson.
100%. Except Samuel L. Jackson does have sort of a change of heart partway through that movie, and I don't suspect that's going to happen with Vicious. But
no.
I did notice here that Vicious seems to have a lot of only child symptoms. Are any of you only children?
No.
I'm not either.
That sounds like a no.
So,
that's definitely a no.
If we have any only children in the chat or listening in podcast land, I'm not trying to offend you. I just mean like
you are more evil people, though. You're very selfish, evil people.
Ricky's not trying to offend you either. It just comes naturally to him. What I mean by that is that he really wants a brother, and he's like, can I just have a sibling? He doesn't understand what entitlement is, and that he is full of entitlement, like that sort of a thing. That's why he has this blind spot for like protocol, right? Because he's like, I actually get away with everything, so why would I attempt not to get away with whatever I feel like? And there is some sort of twisted childish logic to that, but again, it fits his name, and we do get a good number of ways that he fits his name. Josh, where are you up to this point in the episode, which is when Gren speaks 4 languages while introducing Julia?
Well, the 4 language thing doesn't really bother me as much because it seems pretty normal in this universe. I mean,
well, it's not supposed to bother you. It's just cool.
well, and by bother, I mean I didn't really notice it because I'm so used to everyone speaking so many different languages. So it was like, oh, okay, yeah, pretty normal. But I mean, I'm already hooked into this episode because it's giving us insight on what happened. You're seeing like a lot of it's like in the anime when I was so excited to see the little bit of a backstory on things. And I really, really liked this backstory. I really liked, just the way that they built it all up. And it just makes me more sad that we're not going to get a season 2 yet.
Hashtag save Cowboy Bebop. I was thinking of you during this episode going like, this is the episode that Josh would write at the end of watching the anime. he would go, okay, I need to know
Mm.
about Spike and Vicious's days when they were hanging out and killing people for fun together, and like, you know, how
Right.
that worked out.
This
Um,
episode does kind of feel like a spin-off series now that you mention it like that.
Kinda.
You can definitely
Kinda.
feel that energy.
I would love to see that spin-off series though. I'd be all about it. I was at the bookstore recently, weird. But I was in the sci-fi section, normal, and I was looking at, all the Star Wars books, absolutely normal. And I saw a Cowboy Bebop. Okay, with the cheap seat ads, what's going on?
Payola, baby.
What are you talking about? Ads.
Is
I'm
Sean
supporting-
paying you?
We're supporting our friend Sean, the host of Cheap Seat Reviews, the podcast that explores the Hollywood film industry for the greater good, Josh, because he is in a podcasting competition, and we support our independent podcasting friends here at Sudden But Inevitable, because
Is
without
that what it
them,
is?
we would not be where we are.
Is it that
Exactly.
competition he's in? Is it something like should I do
No,
something
they haven't.
here?
They haven't started yet. We're literally just trying to be nice about it. And
Hyping him up? Okay.
Sean sent me a mug, so I feel like it's only fair that I put the mug on the camera and use what little selling power I have to insist that
Okay.
people go to
Okay.
that. Ricky
All right.
D is matching that so well. You
I-
have to
okay.
come to the live chat, youtube.com/twistmyarm podcast every Friday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Ladies and gentlemen, seriously, I'm having too much fun. You guys, what were we talking about? I have no idea.
I was talking about me being in a bookstore and seeing a Cowboy
yeah.
Bebop prequel book
Yes,
that
I
looked
want
really,
it.
really cool. I really should have picked it up. I'm probably gonna go back there this week and grab it. Because it's about
See, you
Spike
coulda
and
had
Vicious
that
and
as your
the
sponsor
Syndicators.
instead of you could have had that as your sponsor instead of a cheap seat mug.
Well, I mean,
I
maybe.
read an inspirational book instead.
Well-
Midlife crisis shit. Gotta read some inspirational stuff.
Do you guys want to take another digression? I'm totally kidding. Josh, I want to point this out. The tweet that I put out there that said, "We have always maintained that Ricky D cannot read and that Josh chooses not to," was a joke. I didn't mean for you to take that seriously and be like, okay, now I'm going
I didn't
to a
even see
bookstore
that
this-"
tweet, but
Oh, I
I
didn't
saw
tweet
the
that.
Through
tweet.
you,
I just
buddy.
didn't know what it said.
I didn't tweet. I didn't tweet that at all. So
I
Chris
am
and
probably reading more than all of you guys right now.
Chris and Leslie, as our resident guest musicians, if I may ask you, what is the technical musical term for maximum sex in one's voice? Because that is what Julia has when she sings this song. Am I right? Is maximum sex the technical term?
I think it would be Jennifer Tilly voice.
Oh
Wow. Ricky
You're
went
welcome.
there. I think there's no other answer that we can give other than Jennifer Tilly voice now.
You ruined it.
Sensual.
I don't think
Disagree
her voice is
wholeheartedly.
pretty anymore. Great. Now all I can see is the Bride of Chucky. Ugh.
So
Slutty
do you guys remember
sax.
earlier when
80 sax.
Oh, sorry.
80 sacks, a slutty sax. Come on. Get that
sorry.
right.
Sorry. What kind of
80
composer am
sax?
I?
Like,
no?
Are we talking
you know,
saxophone?
like 80s power ballad, and you hear the saxophone. I always call it the slutty sax.
Oh,
Puts
Mm.
it out.
Wait. I got a perfect way. Lost Boys, the guy with the sax and the chains. That's
Yeah.
slutty sax right there.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Oh.
Let's just give a really quick saxophone shout out to our friend Carla at the Bed, Wed, or Behead podcast. Carla is the biggest saxophone fan that I know. And Carla, I'm going to put some real smooth sax behind this on the podcast version for you to listen to. I love
You have to put "Careless Whisper" up there by George Michael.
Well, I'm going to put
That's
something
who
that
we do today.
I'm going to put something that people don't own the rights to.
I literally said
Just
that
that
to
first.
first.
You can just use that. Just use that.
Yeah. So Ricky D, you a big fan of Jennifer Tilly, huh?
No, but there's a podcast I listen to where one girl will do her voice, so it's available for me to lash out and grab. I haven't seen a Jennifer Tilly movie in well over a decade.
Probably since a Chucky movie, right?
Question for the rest of you here on the screen with me. When Ricky said, so her voice is available for me to, were you terrified at what was going to come out of his mouth next?
Yes.
Because I was like,
I was
oh,
kind of
God.
cringing just a little bit. It's like, where's
I
this
was like,
going?
yep,
Okay.
we're going to cancel. Oh, cool. All right. Yep. Nope. We're good. All right. Okay. Poor Carla, says our friend Callie. She knows that I only give good facetious shout outs. So yeah. Anyways, Chris and Leslie, what did you think about this song? I think it's called On Mars. It may not be called that, but Julia is on Mars. She puts us on Mars. This is what makes Spike fall in love with her, what makes Vicious immediately possessive of her. Chris and Leslie, what did you think of Julia's performance?
So when I learned that we were coming on this podcast, I sat there and I found that full score on Spotify, and I listened to the score on Spotify first, which, this is what we do for our podcast. And I immediately picked up on the fact that her song was actually on the score on Spotify, and
It's just
it
Julia's
stood out.
style.
It
Yeah.
was beautiful. It stood out. I really liked the style. I liked how she was, dressed, because throughout listening to the score, we heard elements of like country music. We heard elements of jazz. There were some elements that kind of reminded us of old spy music. But when she stepped out on the stage, she kind of looked like she was part of the West. And it kind of reflected the scores in the past. A few tracks that we listened to, her belt buckle, the way her corset top looked. And I kind of like that tie into some of the original, music that we listened to beforehand, before, she belted out her piece, which sounded more, modernistic, not, I wouldn't say like, this era 2022, but more, more modern than some of the older country Western stuff that we heard, prior in the score. I liked it.
Yeah, and normally when I listen to because I listen to the full thing too, and like you're talking about, you got like the jazz elements. It sounds like something from Ocean's 11, 50s, 60s, 70s. Not a lot of 80s comes in there, and then normally when I listen to a score, and there are a lot of scores that will have a vocal track in there. 9 out of 10 times I'm changing it only because I want to hear the score. I want to hear the orchestra.
You don't like musicals either, guys. He refuses to watch musicals.
I'm not a big musical.
You guys don't do very many Transformers soundtracks, do you?
I'm sorry for him. Keep
A little bit
talking.
of classical mixed in with some
Just
Linkin
ignore
Park.
him.
There's
Go
nothing
right
wrong with
ahead. I'm
Mr. Cola,
sorry.
okay?
I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
But no, when it got to Julia's song though, I actually stopped it and I was like, okay, and it did encapsulate me. So when she came up and she started singing, I'm like, oh, this is the song. And
Yeah,
sure enough, it was just as magical as it was listening to it as was seeing it, and it was wonderful.
and she had a wonderful voice. I think that she did a lovely job. If that was her real singing voice,
I
she
hope
did a
so.
lovely job. Up there singing the song. I liked it a lot.
Can you look that up, Josh? I actually don't know if that's her actual singing voice, and I would love to know that too, because as we discussed recently, she's actually married to Tyson Ritter of the All-American Rejects.
Ooh.
Oh,
He plays
Lucky guy.
He plays just a hilarious bad guy in an episode of Cowboy Bebop that you guys should go back and check out if you get a chance.
Is he the naked guy with the bear head?
No, he. Spoilers. He's the mink. Remember?
wow.
Yeah. He shows up with Whitney. Josh is looking that up right now. Thank you for doing
It
that,
is her.
Josh. Oh my
It is her
gosh.
voice.
Seriously,
Fantastic.
Elena
That's a
Centine.
lovely singing voice.
Amazing. Seriously.
Yeah.
I really like it. My
I-
biggest
could we-
complaint. Go
I
ahead.
think we need to stop talking about how great she was singing and talk about how physically beautiful she is.
Go ahead,
Holy
Ricky
crap.
And how she's our age. Woo!
D. And again, married to someone way prettier than us. Go ahead, Ricky D.
Whatever.
Oh, you just wanted to say she was hot. You didn't have anything.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we were waiting on you, dude. I mean, it was like we were right. It was like, come on,
following
Ricky.
up
Open the floodgates, man. What do you got?
Reminds me of Jessica Rabbit, kind of. She's kind of like this, like if I were 8 years old, she would be the perfect version of sexuality to me.
So the
Uh,
34-year-old Ricky thinks that Julia is the perfect version of
Yeah,
right.
yeah. But yeah, just I mean, I'm kind of making a joke and turning it from her talents into her physical looks, but seriously, she is unbelievable looking.
I gotta agree. My biggest complaint with Julia's performance, honestly, was that there was not a yellow gel slipped over the spotlight that was on her. That's all there was. I was like, that would make it look this much closer to the anime, but I do not think that it detracts from it at all. It's one of those things where I'm like, here's a 1% different choice that I would have made, and I don't care that they didn't make it, because you guys are totally right. The scene is very difficult to look away from. It's easy to understand why everyone in the room is suddenly paying a lot of extra attention to the stage, and why Vicious suddenly goes, okay, I have to have this woman. I'm going to become a bit of a psychopath about it. And then, you guys, we get a title card here at 1536 to indicate the passage of time. Cameron from Green Shirt, A Newbie's Trek Through the Next Generation. Jeez.
Yeah, Cameron.
So I have
That
to
guy.
ask, Josh. Cameron is on record as not liking non-standard title cards. I just couldn't
Oh.
figure out why.
That girl, Elena Satine, was in The Gifted, an X-Men series. That's how I recognize her. She was yeah. She was the dreamer in that series. Okay. Sorry, I had to clear that up for my
He had a
own,
moment. He had a moment.
own brain.
It's important to share moments with the people that you care about. So thank you for doing that, Josh. I have to
Yes.
ask, or actually, I guess it's not a question. It's really more of a statement. It is the official position of Sudden But Inevitable that it is only okay to cheat if your significant other is a crime lord style assassin with clear psychopathic tendencies, although it may not be recommended in that case. So I normally when I normally see cheating on screen, I'm really upset. In this instance, I was like, "Oh yeah, totally. Spike is the clear choice." Like,
He's the winner.
Well,
why did you
come
even
on.
spend
I
time?
mean,
I was-
with
come on,
Vicious?
Vicious
Sorry,
is,
sorry, Ricky. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, I was thinking about that earlier, and I was like, well, Spike is definitely breaking the bro code. However,
That's
Vicious,
not the only How I Met Your Mother reference we're gonna make tonight.
Vicious doesn't really belong in the Brethren of Bros because he's such an evil person, and he's just dripping with red flags and toxic masculinity and all of this stuff. So he doesn't deserve to be treated the way other bros get treated.
Bro,
You don't
I have
cheat on your bros, but
Bro.
sorry, go ahead.
It's all right. I have a question, bro. If Spike, if we know that Spike was like an orphan, right? And Vicious saved him, bro? Does that make them bros, or do you think that Vicious did that for like selfish non-bro reasons, bro?
That's an interesting way to phrase that, bro. But what I'm thinking is that was more happenstance. That wasn't necessarily Vicious saving Spike. I think they just kind of ran into each other, and Spike got folded in to the life of Vicious, and he stayed a good bro. But
Bro,
he was
so you're
in a place
saying-
with bad bros.
Got you, bro. I thought so, bro. You're saying Space Denethor was like, okay, that's not your bro, but someday he could be my bro, like professionally. So we're gonna just fold him. That's a good point, bro. I hadn't thought about it that way.
Thanks, bro.
Now that we're past that, and Josh, was that a definition of red flag? Is that what you had brought up on the screen? I felt like I saw a red flag pop up there.
I just wanted to put a red flag up there. I was trying to find the meme of the girl that's just like covered in red flags, but
have you guys ever had a friend, totally break the bro code and end up you almost getting assassinated for it? It's never happened to me, but I feel like if it has happened to one of you guys, we should talk about it.
I mean,
once or twice.
it has happened to me, and it's probably like a good thing that I'm not currently in jail.
I've
Or
got good
like-
bros.
A former assassin, that would probably put you in jail. And that's good to know, bro, because I don't want you to have pain. That would give me pain. So,
But
But
Chris
no,
and
for the most
Leslie.
part, most of my bros are pretty broy, so they've been
Bro.
good bros.
I'm sorry. Are you making fun of me and Ricky?
No, bro, I would never do that.
Okay. It kind of felt like you were making fun of us there for a second. Weird. So, Chris and Leslie, you mentioned that you both very astutely, and because you're obviously cool, listened to the entire soundtrack.
Yes.
And because that's sort of, your wheelhouse, I have to ask you, outside of Julia's song, which is just dripping with sexual vocal honey, what was your favorite track? Let's have Leslie go first, and then Chris, let's have you go.
Did you do that on purpose because she starts that song out by saying drip like lather me in honey or what? Okay. Just
Welcome
making
to the show, Josh.
So my favorite piece of the whole score was called "The Fate of the Three." I really liked that piece because it had some common elements to the West. It kind of reminded me of how the old saloon songs are played on a player piano, the sound of a player piano. And I really liked that feel, that we got from the song. It was really reminiscent of that saloon type of sound,
Do you?
It's my favorite.
Josh, can you look up the title of that? I'm assuming that that's the song that played in the last episode during the temple scene, The Fate of the Three.
I'm doing it right now.
I just need to know where it was played. I don't necessarily need you to, risk YouTube destruction. Chris, go ahead.
Oh.
Yeah, I like the Fate of Three as well. I mean, that was pretty cool. But I got to say, one of my favorite ones was Cat Attack Part 1. That one was a fun track because when it started up, I was like, okay, what is this? And it started playing. All of a sudden, the vocals start coming in. I'm going, well, this is odd, but I really like it and it works. And I'm like, yeah, so normally when I'm listening to the scores, I'm driving to work every time. So I have my windows up and that's the only thing I can hear is the score. And that starts up and I'm sitting there like I'm tapping on the steering wheel. And I'm like, this is weird and funky, but I love it.
Yes.
So Leslie has a more profound way of saying it. Me, I'm just like, I thought it was weird. I liked it.
No, it's evocative language all the same. I have a list of songs that make me drive faster. Like even if I don't want to drive faster, and we'll talk about those. And if you're in the live chat actually, and you have a song that you love to listen to specifically while you drive a little bit too fast, throw it in the chat. I would love to put together a playlist. Josh, what do you got, my friend?
So it starts right when Vicious's dad is going off on him about being a loser. That's when the Fate of Three starts, and it continues all the way through the end.
It's like
all
a
the way
saloon
through to
music mixed with almost a mafia tone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. That's what
That's what it was.
Strings.
What is that? It's got to be is it a sitar in there?
Maybe
that
a
thing that they're strumming mandolin. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, totally
mandolin.
different instrument.
it kind of reminded me of, and we did an episode of The Good and Bad and the Ugly when you have the ecstasy of gold and you have the three standing there and they're eyeballing each other, like, who's going to make the move. And that is what that reminded me of because they were three. And, in that movie, it was a climatic event that brought them there. And so it was very reminiscent of that, other than they put that mafia spin on it because
little Godfather in there for you.
Godfather-y.
Yeah.
100%. And I have to.
My best friend, he betrayed me.
I'll put a horse's head in his bed.
But what I am going to say is, Ricky, if you feel like muting me for a moment on your end, that's totally fine. I'm about to talk about Highlander. So, Leslie, when you said Ecstasy of Gold, I was immediately reminded of Metallica's rendition with the San Francisco Symphony Orchestra of Ecstasy of Gold, which they paired with Call of Cthulhu. And it was like one of my favorite tracks on that album. So, all right, go ahead, Ricky. You're good. Hocus Pocus by Focus. Josh?
I don't know what that means.
Oh, was that Ricky? Did Ricky say that?
Yeah, that's the song you drive fast to.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ricky D. To be fair,
What?
It just says twist my arm. I can't tell who that is. If that's you, if that's Josh. We're all commenting with the same name. I apologize.
Yeah, I don't drive
Phil-
fast to that.
You guys, does anybody want to read or sing any of these? Ricky?
Highway to Hell.
Highway to hell.
Something about Red Barchetta
That's
driving fast,
I-
going fast. Da-na-na-na-na-na.
You know what is really fun that I like to drive fast to? That it's like a classical song that it's got the
Flight of the
vocals
Bumblebee.
in the back.
Flight of the
No, wrong. Wrong. It's the one that they always use when there's like a slow motion happening. La 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 la. La, la,
Oh
la,
yeah, that's like
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about?
yeah.
You know which
yeah,
one I'm
yeah.
talking about.
They use
I'll-
it for a lot of
I'll-
trailers. Slow trailers.
Yeah,
Is that
exactly.
Lux Eterna? Is that Lux
It might be.
Eterna?
It
I think
might
it
be.
might be. Yeah. Oh, no. Our friend Phil,
Phil.
the smartest man.
Or
in the
Fortuna.
world.
Yes, that's what I was just
Ah.
looking that up because I just saved that song recently, and man, like it's fun to drive around to that because you get into like this mode, right? You're like, oh, I just need to let out some steam, but then you pull up to the stoplight, blasting that song, and look to the left. Whew, some fun looks. That's for sure.
Our friend Angelus in the chat says, "Here we go." Chris Classic, Godzilla vs. Kong OST. Our friend Rona says, Carmine Burana. Our friend, Carmina Burana. Sorry, she
Yes,
corrected it.
Carmina. That's
Apologies.
Andre Ryu. Andre Rao? Carmen Marcon. Yeah,
can make up
that's on
names
my
too,
it's on my
Josh.
Spotify. I'm just making up names.
I can make up names too. I'm crafty.
I was joking, but you were actually doing that? That's great.
I was having a hard time sounding about. I read.
So
I
I've been
read
Well,
good
you were just talking about you was at a bookstore,
That's
so of
right.
course we know.
inspirational
right.
novel. See, you put the comic book down. You read something with
From-
substance.
from now on, I will
Make sure the people at
introduce
Twitter
you
know.
as my well-read, erudite friend, Josh. Now,
Thank you. That's all I
you
asked
guys-
for.
Lately, I've been listening to the entirety of the Sturgill Simpson album, Sound and Fury, on just repeat for like, I don't know, maybe a month. It's kind of one of those things that the first time I heard it, it changed my life, and it's still in the process of doing so. So I'm in love with it, and I cannot stop listening to it. Definitely go check it out. I think I tweeted it out a while ago. I'll probably
Yeah, I
put it in the
remember
show
that.
notes
So
or
is that the
something.
song? Is that one of the things you drive fast to, Jesse?
Yeah, I have like a 7-minute commute, so like I'll put that on, and that song's like 2.5 minutes, and it gets me most of the way there. So
3 minutes.
I have a question. Speaking of bro code, did
Oh,
Anna
God.
break the bro code? Did she tell Vicious where they were?
I don't think she did. She did say a naughty word.
She did.
But I
I mean, I
like-
would too.
I mean, yeah, I did like that we get to see why she has been walking around with a cane in the 8 episodes prior up to this, and we find out that it's for good reason. I do have a question though. It's probably just for Josh and Ricky. I don't mean to exclude you, Chris and Leslie, but
It's okay.
you guys, who do you think gave
Explosion.
her those flowers? Like, she said,
Oh,
"You're
I
not the
had-
only one who can fall in love," and then she has flowers. Like,
Yeah, but
Vicious
see,
dad.
Right.
Go ahead, Leslie.
So I kind of made that connection because how would he have known that they had papers ready to go unless she
Kinda what I'm
spilled the
thinking.
beans about something and she
Mhm,
had those
mhm.
flowers, and that was my first thought was they must be lovers because
And-
he wouldn't have known any
and
other
I don't-
way.
I don't think a lot of people know about Vicious being the son of that guy. I think that's kind of a pretty big secret within the syndicate that hasn't really been like
In
brought
the
to
world
light
of the show, I
outside
gotcha.
of the
I was like, I
syndicate.
knew
Like,
that.
so that was my first thought. Honestly, Leslie was that it was his dad that brought the flowers, and that's how
there-
he was getting that info.
Was there some kind of indication of that? Did I just miss him? Was he holding flowers, or did he do something with flowers? Like did
No,
I
it
miss-
was just
No,
the fact that
uh,
he knew something he shouldn't have known.
Oh, okay.
Like when
I
he
just
goes in there and
see-
he's like, your
Yeah.
best friend was out with your girlfriend, and like I figured that out on my own, blah 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 blah.
Oh,
And then
I just
like one of the next scenes was Fearless going in to get the rose, or like made a comment on Anna's roses, and took one.
gotcha. I was under the impression that they were just always being watched because they did not trust Vicious, especially if Spike
Yeah.
wasn't with him. So it
See, that
like,
was me
we're
with
gonna-
Jesse. I was just like, okay, yeah, I'm thinking, okay, they're just always watched.
Yeah.
And then you two could pick out the connection with the flowers. I'm like, oh.
Well, because he said something about the papers. Well, their papers are drawn up. They're running away tonight. And how would he have known that when she didn't like the syndicate?
Yeah,
Could have
I mean,
shared
it's
this information when we were watching the episode last night.
well,
I have
and that's the thing. I think it's a fair question because I was like, I don't know at the end of it, and I didn't have any clue. So it's possible that I need
Well,
to watch it again too.
And Caliban, John Noble's character, is old. He is
And she
rich.
Yeah, see,
and
that's
he
our
is kind of
favorite
fat.
line.
Oh yeah, that is our favorite line. They were
Yes,
talking
that's what
about
she
she likes
likes.
them rich, old, and fat.
Right.
I don't think he's
I wrote
that fat.
Well, I mean, he
it's
just
not-
looks fat with his robes.
Yeah.
Can we just talk about how awesome John Noble is for a moment?
Yes.
As
Yes,
long as
we
he's not
can.
eating
Well-
cherry tomatoes, he's great.
And he was awesome in that show Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, I
oh
loved
my
him in
god,
Sleepy
he was like
Hollow.
one of the best parts of Sleepy Hollow was when John Noble showed up. It's like, yes. I mean, come on. And it was like when we see him pop up, and Leslie goes, "I thought he was dead. He's not.
Yeah,
This
I
is
thought
great."
he died in real life. I'm like, wait a minute, that fella didn't die. I thought he was dead.
You guys, I'll be honest, I didn't recognize him the first time I was watching the series. I was just like, oh, that guy's creepy. That's cool. Like, I wasn't like, oh,
There's
it's
a reason for that.
Denethor. I just, yeah, he does. He really embodies the characters. And I'll be honest, I sort of confused Stax or Stas or whatever the guy's name is, like
Stux.
their handler. I
Stacks.
confused him for John Noble's character once or twice, and then I was like, oh, I figured it out. Phil in the chat brings up a good point. One of Gren's underlings may have spoiled things. Real quick question: what if it was just Gren? Is it possible that Gren, because Gren has made mention of, Anna's not the only one with eyes and ears everywhere. Is that a reference to the Syndicate, or is that Gren saying like, hey, maybe I just do some stuff on my own sometimes? I don't know.
She's
Maybe
the little finger of this universe.
maybe they have designs on
they?
Anna's bar. Like,
forgot. God,
it's
I always forget that.
possible because it seems to be an important place in this world, right? So it's definitely possible. I'm not 100%. Phil, that's why I asked Phil. Phil says I don't think they'd do that to Spike, and I agree with you. As far as we know, there's no reason that would happen. But I did feel like it needed to be asked, just because that there were a couple lines that made me think that maybe Gren was setting up to have aspirations at something more. I don't know if it would have been, untoward aspirations, but I can't say that it wouldn't have. But we have talked before, you guys, about how Anna's bar is one of my favorite sets. I love the time that we get to spend there. I love that we see the seatbelts on stage. I love that we're hearing music be played live. Just everything about it. I do struggle to keep up in this episode because it's so quick. It feels really quick. Like, Vicious' personality just takes over at some point, and he's like, I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm going to not, execute this deal how they want me to. I'm going to threaten the guy instead of making a deal. I'm not going to leave this guy alone when I see him on the street. I'm just going to kill him. And I'm not going to, respect the things that I'm told to do. There's that scene where he says, I don't answer to him. And Spike goes, oh, I do. So give me your gun. Like, come on, man. We're in a freaking crime family. We need to act as if. And he's just so spoiled that Vicious goes, he literally gives him, this is going to be all mine one day, right? Like, I just cannot wait to be evil, psychotic king. And then the whole dance number with all of the flowers and the crazy colors. That was one of my favorite parts of the episode, I'll be honest.
Yeah, he really is an entitled prick, for sure. knowing
There's no way
that Daddy is, Daddy owns a dealership. So everything
Dude,
is fine.
Dad owns
Dealership.
this dealership, okay? And he will hook you up, bro.
Man, 10 points to anyone that names that reference.
Yeah,
Whew.
you've got 13 seconds.
Yeah. But seriously, like he does whatever the hell he wants. And there was always that kid in high school, right? Or like in school that would just do whatever they wanted because their mom was a teacher there or something and like would never get in trouble. And they were always the worst. And Stax points that out at some point where he's like, he's just a bad apple. I just don't like him. He's just a bad kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he's right. You don't just hit people with cars and pull out their teeth because, you're a good guy.
Well,
Yeah, you're a very
yeah.
happy person when you do things like that. I mean,
Yeah.
clearly, Josh. I
I
mean,
mean, if
come
you're
on.
the Joker, maybe.
It takes a normal, sane person to just like douse somebody with gas and like rip their teeth out and everything else.
Set 'em
I
on
mean, I've seen
fire.
it every day. It's a normal thing. It happens. I
I
don't
don't know what you guys do down there in the South, but
Look,
like,
man,
up
he's
here
a
in Colorado, we
Composing
don't
is
pull people's
difficult.
teeth out.
All right, there's a lot that goes into composing music, Josh. Don't make assumptions.
Especially when
I
I start
know.
hearing him hit the keys real hard on keyboard. What are you doing, Chris?
I
But
know
like,
that
gee.
writing is like pulling teeth, but you don't have to be literal about it. Like, dang, dude.
Well, I mean, when I don't get a job, I mean, it makes me angry. I can't help it, man. I mean, directors need to be feared of composers. I mean, I keep trying to tell everybody. I can't even finish that one.
Look at. I was gonna say, watch Chris's new LinkedIn page is gonna just like all. It's gonna be one of those acronym posts, but it's gonna be fear instead of like team, right?
Teeth.
Uh,
Teeth everywhere.
I'm a composer. People fear me.
And I
think
wonder
John
why I
Lennon
don't get
says
any
that.
jobs
With the
nowadays.
killer beats.
but to be 100% fair to Vicious, which I'm sure he feels no one has ever done. His model, the guy immediately above him, the person he's supposed to be taking orders from, is the same way.
Monster.
Well, and he's doing the same stuff. He's like, okay, one day I'm gonna be an elder, and I'm not gonna have to deal with any of this. It's all gonna be mine. I don't have to put up with you. Like, so he has the same attitude that Vicious has. So it's arguable that it's like, really, this is. I mean, Josh, there are definite Sith parallels here, but it's like it's definitely more of just an evil ambition thing, right? A blanket evil
like-
ambition thing,
That dude is like John Noble light. Because
right?
he's like eating his steak like a savage.
Yeah,
And like,
Oh,
that's fake
man.
steak.
mm.
It's for steak.
he was he was very much the, I will just take over eventually
It's faux
Sith
vine.
kind of guy, you know.
Well,
He's my new empire.
Well, but that, I mean, it's one of those things like he has to know that Vicious poses some sort of power threat to him, right? Like even though he's
Him and his
Vicious's
yacht.
handler, right? Like even though he outranks him, he is an elder's kid. So at some point there's going to be this conflict of interest somewhere going on, right? It's going to happen. So Ricky D, I feel like this has been our like mobbiest episode up to this point.
Oh,
Would you
yeah.
agree with that?
100%.
Does that, I have to ask, just without spoiling anything, does that make it your favorite episode? Like,
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's no Ein, so
Oh, that's
it
true.
takes a huge hit for
Or
that.
Jet.
but-
or Faye.
But Ein. So the mob thing has always been just kind of in the background. It's always been floating around. It's always been the C story. I mean, it's much more focused on in the live action than it is in the animated, but it's always been in the background. This episode, it is right up there front and center. They are doing work and trying to advance the causes of the mob or the syndicate, obviously.
it's the same. It's just a different word that means the same thing, obviously. But they do. I really appreciated the very, I don't know what the word is, clandestine nature of a lot of the scenes in this episode, right? Where there was, you could feel the like danger coming off of people. There was that sense of palpable, these people are this far from just killing whoever they feel like killing, and that is uncomfortable. And yes, we do have, I'm kind of sad that Carla isn't here in the thirst chat, but we do get a bit of a love scene in this episode, my friends. Should we discuss
What
it,
a
or
what a
should we-
ridiculous love scene, though. I mean, you don't see very many love scenes where people are getting it on while somebody else is burning somebody alive. Like,
Yeah.
Maybe not the websites you go to.
okay.
Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen,
we
this
have
has been
learned a
Somewhat
lot
Inevitable, and we thank you for joining us. We will see you never. No, that's actually a really good point, because it's effective AF, right? I mean,
Well, and it's kind of showing like Vicious burning his life away, burning his relationship up while how do I phrase this?
It's
While they go to
Spike
Pound Town?
is.
I would say that
You know,
this
it's funny
is
'cause, I think A. Martinez was in a show called Pound Town, by the way.
Wow.
The guy who
And he
plays
was
Steph.
also, and A. Martinez was also in Curse of Chucky, which Jennifer Tilly was in.
Oh.
Is it?
That-
And
that-
is this one for Cam? Yeah, he was also in Jag.
no, he punched me because I sound like this. Okay, so I think it's a
Sorry,
good point to bring it up though that they intercut this pretty violent act with the
Pretty violent act.
the trip to the aforementioned town of Pounding. And I think the reason that they do that actually has to do with Ricky's aforementioned bro code, because both of these, let's not call them gentlemen, both Fearless and Vicious are breaking a code in this scene at the same time, right?
Mhm.
Vicious is breaking the code, capital C, of, organized crime, which is you follow the rules. There are rules of engagement. Territory gets respected. You don't just have open war in the streets, because that could be last man standing. And you don't eat out of your let's see.
You don't tug on Superman's cape. You
Yes.
don't spit into the wind.
Yeah.
Don't look
Don't
a gift
hold a
horse in the
mask.
mouth.
Never
the
play
low-
cards
off
with
the
a guy
low
named
ranger.
Doc.
And you don't screw your best friend's girlfriend.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen, the Emperors in the chat and listening in podcast land. So we've got double code busting at the same time here. Busting makes these two gentlemen feel good and then very bad, because they both have a moment of triumph, right? Spike's like, yes. Julia,
Wow, the jokes that we could go. with
Julia's
here.
like, I feel like I set them all up. Just they exist within the listeners' minds. Go ahead, Josh. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing
Okay.
it. I'll let the listeners tweet at us their jokes.
Okay. So Julia has this moment where she looks over and she's like, "Is this a dream?" Amazing 4-word callback. I had to count those, and to the entire original series, right, where Spike is going, I've had dreams. I've been killed by women before. I've never been sure that I was waking up from my dream. The movie in particular has a lot of dream themes going along the lines of, the butterflies and, Spike always is getting knocked out, etc. So it's a great, subtle, tiny nod to that. And it's the one moment where everyone feels like they accomplished something, right? She's like, cool, I have totally connected with somebody better than who I was already with. Spike's like, cool, I've found that I can connect to a human being. I'm not a cold husk. I'm not totally heartless. And Vicious is like, sweet, I just ripped all of that guy's teeth out and lit him on fire, and that was a lot of fun. Man, he has fun in a weird way as I say it out loud.
I think that scene, granted, you've got this horrific act going on, and then you have this tender moment shared between the two. But to me, you start delving a little bit deeper, you actually can see the difference between the two characters. That Spike really does have a tenderness to him that you hadn't seen before, and then you got Vicious, where he's just kind of. It reminds me of when
Unhinged.
Anakin killed all the Padawans. That was it. That was the last straw. He just converted straight, there completely. That was it. That was the ultimate moment, setting this guy on fire. So you can actually see the transformation of both of those characters, in that moment of time.
I'm proud over here because I didn't make the Star Wars reference.
Yeah, I know. Leslie, I'm sure your check is in the mail. Well done. You've made
Actually, we got
Josh's
that ahead
entire
of
week.
We got that ahead of time.
As long as we're clear on what just happened there, I'm glad. Chris, I'm sorry. You mentioned something about Star Trek. Oh, did you?
Crickets.
Okay, I'm sorry.
There was no Star Trek.
No, that's totally fine. I must have misheard that. But yeah, we do get the flashbacky direct translations of some of Josh's favorite scenes. These are actually, so Chris and Leslie, in the anime, the first scenes that you see in the first episode are the Rose hitting the puddle on the concrete, and then Spike
do remember
walking
that.
away, And it's just, yeah, so those shots are like shot for shot, and they are huge evocative moments for fans of the original series. For you guys, I would imagine they're just like, oh, this is the most noir thing I've seen in 5 years on a television screen, right? So
and you get the horns, the brass coming in with the the saxophone, where it sounds like
That
a
slutty
like
sax.
like you said, a noir. It sounds like a detective thing going on. It's like I'm just expecting Humphrey Bogart to show up and go, well, a night like this. I mean that was the feeling I
You
got.
see, Cal,
Yeah.
we can't be going out there in the middle of the night looking for criminals, okay?
We can't go pull teeth. All right, it's just bad for business.
yeah,
But
she
no,
was, go ahead.
go ahead, go.
I was gonna say she was 5'4" and every bit of trouble, and she was blonde when she walked through my door. But
She was
when I was
5'4",
Jimmy, she was brunette.
every bit of trouble, and she carried
yeah,
a 9mm in her
You
purse.
can't do it without going to like the news person voice from the 20s and 30s. I don't know why. Like people, I don't know that they sounded like that. I think it was an audio like engineering reason that everything sounds like that from back in the day, but I'm not 100%. But our friend Phil K, the super fan for Bebop, does confirm for us. He could not believe how perfectly they lined up those shots. The puddle shot alone, it really does. It feels like live action translation, like cell for cell, and it was unbelievable. Dateline Mars, and it to me, I knew when I first saw the live action version of the intro, right? The first time I heard Tank and saw that like live actionification of the intro, I was like, I mean, I was there in the virtual room with you, Josh and Ricky. I was like, you guys, I am so effing here for this. Like, this is exactly what I need. And Chris and Leslie, we have a bit of a reputation here on our show for being just like huge fanboys of the series, and we don't always bring the most critical lens to this show. So I'll ask you, since you've had no prior experience with it, the visuals, combined with the music and the audio in this show are very unique. It's all, I guess that you can't be very unique. You either are unique or are not unique, but they're stylistically unique. They're not something that you expect to see necessarily. What did you guys think of this episode as a whole visually when you got done watching it? Let's have Leslie go and then Chris.
Well, I like I said, since I've never seen the series, I had to, read a little bit about the background to try to understand, since we were just jumping in, kind of in the middle of
Well, I remember it was like
of
the one episode
things.
before the last one.
You're at
And
the end, yeah.
so, well, so
Well,
to
you're
try
at the
to
start,
understand,
really, but yeah.
Yeah.
it's the very first episode for me. Gosh, so. But anyway, I had to kind of look at a synopsis to try to figure out, okay, what's going on, because I listened to the score first, as I said, and I'm like, this is all over the place. You've got this country feeling, you've got this heist feeling, you've got these other elements. I'm like, so what is actually going on here? So the first thing that I thought of was Cowboys versus Aliens, how that score kind of was in the West. And so when I started to read the synopsis, I'm like, this makes sense. This makes sense to the score. So then, as we were watching this episode, I was looking at the pacing, and in my opinion, because I had no idea what was going on other than, what was playing on the screen, it was kind of slow to me. But I think that it's only because I had no clue of what was happening prior, but in my mind, the pacing was a little bit on the slow side. I loved the visual effects that they used. One of the scenes where he went in there and started to kill everybody in the other syndicate, that kind of panoramic shot. To me, that was beautifully done. I really liked that, how he's flipped off the table and you could see him flipping in the air. The action sequences I thought were real nice. And, overall, I liked the episode.
This is a perfect episode for you guys to watch without watching anything else, though, because it is like a prequel to everything. So if you went back and started from the beginning of the season, it would all make a lot more sense.
Yeah, it's like you only watched the backstory, and if you started over now, you'd be way ahead. We're not pressuring you, but you have to do it. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I'm pressuring you.
Oh no, I'm actually planning to watch the finish. Start the series from the
Start
first
the series to
yeah,
finish it.
Yeah, start the series to finish it since we're like the episode right before the last. But no, visually it was, especially with Vicious. I mean, it was straight up anime. You could just, it was dripping with anime styles. I mean, because the way he looked, the way the camera would loom on him for a little bit, visually, I mean, it was very striking. Straight up, it did have a little bit of the Dutch angles with the comic book style where the camera would tilt a little bit. I thought that was kind of cool, but sometimes they did it a little bit too much in this episode, and I'm going,
One of the biggest complaints of this whole series is the Dutch camera
yeah,
angles.
it was like, okay, it's like, okay, it's not needed right here. I mean, just you don't have to go full anime. Just go, get your shot across, without doing that. And I don't know. I mean, but overall, watching it, sorry, Leslie, I gotta disagree with you. I thought it was pretty cool.
I was saying I liked it. I said I liked it.
I like
She
the
liked
pacing.
it.
I
I just didn't like the
slow.
pacing. It's kind of slow.
I
mean,
liked the pacing. I liked the way it told the story to it. And I mean, to me, the pacing worked for the episode because the music was there. The music kept it going. And the way it had the jazzy feel with, a little bit of a cowboy feel going in there. I mean, because the show is called Cowboy Bebop, for crying out loud. But I'm just saying, the way it kept going, and the way the music was helping along with, especially with Julia singing and everything else, to me, it just worked. The pacing just was, going along as much as it. But when it got to the end, when Vicious went, full on, yeah, full on psycho moment. That's, to me, is when it really sped up. That's when it really started to like, and then all of a sudden the episode was over. I'm like, no.
Always when the psychotic moments happen, right?
Yeah,
Like Daredevil,
exactly.
when Kingpin smashes that dude's head in the car. You're like, oh yeah, this is cool. So this one you
Like, oh,
see,
yeah.
Vicious just pull someone's teeth out, and you're like, all right, I'm down.
Yeah.
Oh, fire.
Then it's like episode over. Like, no.
Well, and
You got to do the trailing off though. No.
So to Leslie's point, I would agree that this episode out of the series has probably some of the slower pacing for a single episode. It is not the slowest. The slowest one is I think episode 5. It's an episode called Dark Side Tango. It moves very slow, but it is ultra noir. Like it's almost an experiment in noir. And but I agree that this episode has a couple moments where I'm like, please pick it up a little bit. Nothing. I think I would agree with Leslie. There was nothing that ruined it for me that had anything to do with the pacing. But I do. I think it's great to hear you guys say that you noticed all the crazy amount of Dutch angles, but
Yeah.
it didn't ruin it. I mean, it is prevalent, and that is, I think, a valid complaint because for some people, being off kilter on that framing is going to be like physically disorienting. But I really quickly, I'm going to say
I'm okay with that
hello.
stuff.
Oh, I totally am too. I'm going to really quickly say hello to our friend Smallville Sky. Says, hey guys, just got off work. Hopefully I didn't miss much. It's not all of it. You haven't missed all of it. We're a little over halfway. But Chris and Leslie did bring up the scene, right? Capital S, where Spike goes, okay, I will fix the problem that Vicious has created by just one-manning this entire encounter. No
Yeah.
problem. Like, are you kidding me? He's got like the coolest little machine pistols, and he goes in there just so
Wrecks
calm
'em.
after a cigarette. I mean, let's talk about, before we talk about the scene of Spike just whooping every ass that is available, we have to talk about smoking in media, okay? Again, I know smoking is bad. Nobody should smoke. People should be allowed to smoke on TV and in movies, okay?
They didn't let Penguin do it in the new Batman.
That's
movie.
kind of why I brought it up.
Okay.
Yeah,
What, really? I didn't know about that.
Yeah, they took
Which,
a
by the way, I saw the
Spoiler?
Batman yesterday, and it is a fantastic Batman movie. I mean,
the score is amazing.
Yeah, we love the score.
The score is
It's-
absolutely amazing.
It's
I haven't seen the
comic
movie
book
yet.
accurate Batman ever, and like Robert Pattinson is wonderful. So I highly recommend it.
Sparkle Boy pulled it off, huh?
Sparkle Boy.
Yeah, he did. But I did read that article about not being able to smoke. Like Colin Farrell was like really upset that he couldn't smoke because Penguin always smoked his cigars. And WB was like, yeah, we have an image to protect. Yeah, Batman is beating the shit out of criminals, but like you can't smell.
Blood everywhere, but no smoking. Smoking's bad.
So
Big deal.
I personally
Mercilessly.
like on like a societal level, I would be okay if smoking was not allowed except for on TV and in movies. Like if you could not purchase cigarettes unless it was for a production so that people
Hey,
in that
screw you, buddy.
production
Some
would
of
look
us still
cool,
smoke.
I would be I'm just saying like it might be a better place overall, but I'm not saying you should quit, Josh. I'm just saying
I'm saying I should quit.
I think people should be allowed to smoke in movies and TV.
You read that
because
inspirational novel. He's got quit.
yeah. Well, but it
Callback.
it creates just so much drama in a film frame to have smoke
Yeah.
curling and writhing among the crevices of an actor's face or among the pieces of the set. Like there's just so much. It's literally portable, directable atmosphere.
Well,
And
how
that's-
many awesome memes have we gotten out of smokers? The Ben Affleck meme where he's smoking a cigarette. The one with Matthew McConaughey and he's like really, really smoking that cigarette hard. Like it is cool to smoke in movies.
Just for memes alone.
We've
mean,
talked
just
about
for
it
memes.
before. We wish it weren't the case, but smoking is cool in movies and television. Now, let's talk about this scene, okay? Let's give Josh. I want to give you a moment to talk about this scene first, and then we'll go Ricky, then we'll go Chris and Leslie. Josh, talk to me about the Spike destruction, the Spike waltz through this room full of dudes.
Are you talking about the obligatory Netflix one-shot scene that is in almost every single Netflix show?
If I had to guess, I would say this is probably a faux one shot because there's
It
definitely
absolutely
some
is.
pans over some screen breaks. I'm not calling it
Yeah.
but I love this shot.
I mean, Daredevil did it better. That's all I'll say about it. I mean, this was a great shot, but like, no, he went in there completely fearless, right? Like he really showed off why his name is Fearless in this particular scene because he did not give one single fuck. He was like, I'm just gonna fix this and just kill everyone instead of just killing Vicious and then being able to A, still work for the Syndicate and B, run off into the sunset with Julia because Vicious is now dead. She'll get over it. Like, you're just gonna go and kill the whole mob? I mean, I guess I kind of get it. You did it for the love of your brother who you have been screwing over for a while already anyway. I mean,
That's a good point though, Josh, because now are these poor innocent other mobsters that are probably into organized crime and not innocent at all, are they reaping the non-benefits of the fallout of Spike and Vicious relationship? Like they're getting killed here because he's cleaning up Vicious mess. He's only cleaning up Vicious mess because he knows that he totally broke the bro code, bro.
and bro, I feel like that could be kind of necessary, but like, I think Spike should have really thought this one through and just been like, bro, I could just kill this guy and I would be totally fine. Like, I could just tell Julia that he disappeared. He ran away and write a fake note that says, bro, sorry, but we're breaking up. And then like, that's it, right? That's
You
what I
would
would have
hope.
done.
You would hope. Ricky D, what do you think about this scene? And what did you think about that? Is this the first instance of Spike? Like, is this as bad as Spike gets? I think arguably, obviously, it is. This is as bad as
Yes.
Spike gets, right?
Well,
Well,
the
especially
way
the
I
end of this
interpreted,
scene.
yeah, exactly. Well, the way I interpreted it, this whole scene was earlier in this very episode, we see somebody walk in on Vicious and Spike killing somebody, and Spike lets her go, and Vicious, chides him about it and says you shouldn't do that. This time, he sees somebody kind of witnessing the end of his mayhem, and he ends up killing her. So there's definitely a change that has occurred within him. And I think that the most evil, the worst version of Spike exists to protect Vicious. So that's the reason all these people got killed, is because Spike is 100% on board for protecting Vicious, whether it's because he just broke the bro code and he's having emotions about that, or it's because they grew up together. but he is willing to do terrible things for Spike.
Yep. And I think
Or
that's it
for
right there.
Vicious.
No, but I think you nailed it though. It is a bit of a non-subtle commentary on the potential toxic relationships that can exist with family or with found family in this case, right? Like it can be tempting to latch on to things that seem like exactly what you wanted, but they turn out to be like a psychopath with white hair and a blade fetish.
Weird blade fetish, man.
I mean, but a blade fetish is a blade fetish, right? I mean, don't yuck anybody's
He
yum, Josh.
pulls that
Nobody's
knife out of
judging-
that guy's.
hey, Nobody's judging your fetishes. Do you want me to tell everybody what you're into and then have
Please,
them judge
do
that?
it.
Oh,
See what happens.
I don't know what it is. I was just
Yeah, because
like, as
I don't have any weird fetishes.
I don't
Josh,
know, man.
we all
You don't.
we all know how you feel about blades, man. I mean, come on.
Well,
I don't know if it counts as a fetish, but I heard Josh cries after sex.
no, that's
I'm
not a
always
fetish.
just so happy, man.
That's
You
an-
don't gotta call me out like that. Like it doesn't happen very often, and when it does, I'm
Wow.
very happy about it.
Josh, I was this close to jumping to your defense, and then you were just like,
Wow.
"No, here's the cliff. Here I go." So
Jump
never
right off,
mind, I
man.
guess.
I'll take care of it. I got this. It's fine.
I was gonna say that's just an
No
emo
shame.
kid thing that he does to keep in character. So
I'm gonna start
I-
wearing eyeliner here soon.
our friend Angelus asks, "Is there even a bro code in the syndicate, bro?" That's a fair question, bro. Thank you for asking, because I would think the syndicate code supersedes a bro code, right? Because it's like life and or death at all given times.
But bro code
Um,
is so ubiquitous; it just it exists in the ether. There's so many
Right.
bros in the syndicate. The syndicate code might trump bro code, but bro code can't be eliminated entirely.
Well, and what is the syndicate code? Is that more like do for yourself and screw your bro? Because bro, that would be messed up.
But the term syndicate indicates some level of cooperation. You guys, it's possible that we're focusing on this too much. I'm not 100% on that. Chris and Leslie, what did you guys think of the one shot, or the faux one shot that was glorious nonetheless? What did you think of Spike just wasting face endlessly?
So, throughout the episode, you see him talking to the head guy. I can't remember his name. And
Stacks or something.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he said it more than once. I can fix this. I can fix this. You can obviously tell that there's an emotional connection between him and Vicious. And as far as the syndicate is concerned, Vicious needed to be, dealt with accordingly. The syndicate could care less if there is an emotional connection between these two fellows, and there really is one, and you can see it obviously. So when Spike went in there and he said, "I can fix this," he was trying to help out. I feel Vicious. You didn't kill him like they told him to kill him to begin with. You let him go. But then he went in there and he started, kill them all. There's my Metallica reference. You could see, as Ricky D said, he did turn, because he did. You thought that he was going to leave that one girl run away, and in essence, he didn't. He killed her. He shot her right there on the spot. And at that point, you could see that Spike hit his lowest, because obviously he does have feelings, whether or not he says he does or not. He cares about Vicious. And then here you see him actually kill somebody that was an innocent, in this whole matter.
I bet that was the moment he realized he wanted to get out, though. Because
That's
that
right.
was before he had run to Julia and said, "We need to run away." Like, I think that was the moment where he's like, "Okay, I'm so sick of sticking up for this guy and cleaning up all of his messes, and looking over my shoulder constantly with the syndicate." Like,
And I feel like, also at that moment, he realized what he truly is capable of. And that scared him, because he is capable of being a monster like Vicious.
And you see it on his face right before he shoots the innocent person. You see him kind of stop, hesitate, and think about it for a moment, and he's just like, "I'm gonna have to do something that I don't want to do," and that's when he shoots her. And you can, like you're talking about there, where this is the moment where he realizes that he wants out, and that right there is the moment. that when he stops and thinks about it for a moment, that's when he's just takes everything in and he's just like, this is got to stop. I got to stop sticking up for Vicious and everything else. And the whole scene leading up to, the Netflix one take of
Beautiful
which,
cinematography there.
yeah. Oh, well, it was great, but I got to agree with Josh. Daredevil did do it better, but I'm waiting for the Cuphead show for the one take scene in there where Cuphead has a big fight and everything else. It's on Netflix. So the whole scene where it's leading up, Spike's there with the knife and everything. You're thinking, okay, is this really fixing to happen? Is he fixing to knife him in the back or something like that? And it's like you can see Spike thinking about it for a moment. Then he's just like, don't worry about it. I'll fix this. And that's when he just goes full vicious and kills everybody in the entire room, bringing out his inner Charlie Cox there and lays waste to everybody in the entire room. And then that very last moment, it's kill the person, kill the innocent and everything else. Then it's like he snapped back for just a little bit. He's like, whoa, why did I do this? Why am I doing this? And it's all pointing to Vicious. And it's just like, all right, it's time to leave.
Okay, I have to say this. In defense of John Cho, Charlie Cox is 11 years younger than John Cho is. Just throwing it out there. It's not like Charlie Cox was behind the camera, you guys. I'm totally
And I gotta give it to John Cho. He got ripped for this show. I mean, he really did.
I haven't seen Daredevil. I'm not hating on it. I'm contentious by nature.
I'm sorry.
So
what?
You
haven't seen?
No. Does that surprise you? Does that honestly surprise
you? You would like that show, though. You'd like that show.
I'm not saying that I wouldn't like it. I'm asking you if it
Daredevil
surprises you
ever.
that I haven't seen it.
Daredevil is
all
the
right. I can just hear Sean yelling at me right now. He's not going to watch. He doesn't like your suggestion.
Daredevil is the superhero that's blind, but his powers make it so that doesn't matter, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought I had the right guy.
He's played by Ben Affleck. Yeah.
No.
No.
God, I wish I could block the host.
I'll be honest, it's actually the second time we've done that joke on this show, so it's not even fresh. But Josh, I'm not saying I won't watch Daredevil. I just felt like it needed to be mentioned, man. Like I thought this scene was great, and I know that none of you are poo-pooing the scene or anything like that, so I don't mean to imply that you are.
No, it had some of the best choreography. John Cho had some of the best, like flipping over tables, and like when he did the thing with the chick where he like breaks her arm back and like shoots a couple people and then shoots her. Like there's a bunch of really sweet choreography that was a lot like better. Like these one shots on Netflix. Like I said, it's the obligatory one shot for a Netflix show because most shows have some sort of one shot like this, even if it's a faux one shot or whatever. But they get better every single time, and I feel like with this was kind of one of the better ones.
Well, it's
out
like
of
the
anything
shot,
that I've seen out there.
Much like this series, it's like this one single shot is going genre by genre, trope by trope as he kills more and more bad guys, right? Like it starts out with just straight up a gunfight, and then he's got like a little bit of a Matrix move and a little bit of an Equilibrium move. Then he kills somebody with an axe because they have an axe in that room, and it's like then he starts doing just all these different cool moves and different kills. It's like a homage to all of the cool assassin kills you've ever seen in anything else before, all lined up genre to genre, end to end, to prove that Spike really is just the coolest dude ever, period. And I can't believe that they managed to pull off getting me to think a live action actor is just impossibly cool in a way that makes me feel like an idiot because I can't come up with another word other than cool. Now, speaking of feeling like an idiot, I generally just steamroll right past some conversational topics as we go through this show. You guys know me. That is just an inevitable truth of our sudden show. Josh, is there anything that you feel like I have skipped past that we have to talk about before we get to this week's segments?
The last thing that I wanted to talk about was my final How I Met Your Mother reference when Vicious is walking up to Spike at the very end and says to him, "She's not coming." It reminds me of one of Barney's playbook plays, where he goes to people at the top of the one of the towers in New York, and he finds the one woman that's standing there lonely and says, "He's not coming." And like 1 out of 5 times it works. So for me, that it just made me laugh, because when Vicious came up and says she's not coming, I'm like, oh, he's gonna take him home. But then I realized, what I'm watching.
Yeah, he's gonna get shot, not dated. Yeah. It's not a show that I refuse to watch. It's just a show that I haven't seen. Ricky D.
I won't even recommend that one to you, because I don't care.
Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. Is there anything that you feel we must discuss before we get to our segments, my friend?
Yeah, I have just a small little thing. One of my favorite bits about Cowboy Bebop is the Easter eggs of real information. They actually talk about different planets in our solar system, and they actually live on the the moons of Jupiter and all this kind of stuff. And one thing that was mentioned early on by Stax is that it rains diamonds on Neptune. And that is real. There's something about the pressure systems that will build up and put diamonds, and they'll get up into the sky, and it will rain diamonds on Neptune. And I think on...
Is it one of the moons of Jupiter?
No. You know what? Let's just forget that, because I can't remember the name.
Where's Phil? Phil, hey,
Yeah,
you gotta
Phil.
know.
Ladies and gentlemen, Thimper is in the live chat. Throw up your favorite planetoid or planet that rains diamonds in its atmosphere. The character almost looks right into the camera when he says that. Like,
Right.
isn't that nuts? And then like, I did pick up on that. I was like, that's freaking cool. And
I was waiting
it is,
for the Reading Rainbow. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys, we're dropping that in right there. That's what it is to that.
The
Chris
more
and
you know.
Leslie, is there anything that you guys feel we have to discuss before we get to our segments for the week?
So I did write something down as far as score-wise was concerned, because I was, I always look at trivia too when I, do a
Show,
an
movie.
episode. Sorry, my brain is fried. So I made a list, and I found this in the trivia. It says the movies that inspired the original show. And I feel like the movies that inspired the original show has also inspired the music. The Big Sleep, The Good and the Bad and the Ugly. Now, remember, we just mentioned that when we talked about The Fate of the Three. Bonnie and Clyde, 2001 A Space Odyssey. Dirty Harry. Now think about the scene we just talked about in Dirty Harry. Lethal Weapon and The Crow.
Yes.
All the music from those movies, just think about that and how it's kind of absorbed into Cowboy Bebop.
I just
guys,
want
we got to
Jet
do a
now
Crow
to say,
episode.
I'm getting too old for this shit, Spike.
That's fair. I don't mean to interrupt. You guys, we have to do a Crow episode. We have to find somebody who has not seen The Crow, watch it with them, and do a sudden but inevitable episode about it. I would really enjoy that.
If it helps,
Chris.
I've never seen The Crow.
Oh, okay.
Jesse made me watch The Crow when we were in high school.
Really?
We watched
I
it
have-
up in Magenalicia's,
Dude.
that little loft area.
I have a pretty good track record of introducing stuff to people that they end up enjoying. I'm just going to throw that out there. I have a
He's
whole
like, I hated
podcast
The
about it,
Crow.
actually. Dude, The Crow is good, and I know Ricky likes it. Our friend Angelus likes The Crow as well. We have to say hello to our friend Steve in the live chat. He made it. Thank you for being here with us, Steve, who has fixed his previously drunken keyboard. Chris, I'm sorry I cut you off. Leslie, Chris, did you guys have anything else you wanted to discuss before we get to our segments?
The one thing I wanted to talk about was the whole one take, the music side of it. All right, so you've got this, up until this moment, you have like the 50s, 60s, 70s jazz feel going on, and then when you get this one take, it brings in like the 80s guitar. It's going all over the place, and it's mirroring what Spike is doing, and shows. And it also mirrors the attitude that Spike has, how it goes unhinged, how it just showcases, but it's still got a beat going. So that's the one thing. All the scores always got a beat going, and it's still got a beat going even for this. And it sounds awesome, and it sounds great, but it just it's off the rails as far as like the huge guitar wails and everything else. And I mean, it worked so well for the
But no
scene.
slutty sax.
Yeah, no slutty sax in there.
No
It
slutty
was
sax
gone.
from the 80s.
Sax man was out playing on the beach with some vampires and swinging his chain around and everything else. So it was great.
The I have to point out the live chat is coming for you, Josh, and
I know, and I must
love
defend
that.
myself because holy shit.
Wow.
So I was raised in a very, very, very religious family. I'm talking I got grounded for reading Harry Potter. So The Crow
Wow.
was not something I was going to be able to watch when I was
Not-
younger.
not accessible.
So
Ugh.
it's not for like lack of wanting. I never wanted to see it. It came out. I didn't get to watch it. My time passed.
Our friend Angelus in the live chat makes an excellent point. Michael Wincott in the movie The Crow is like vicious, and that's 100% accurate. Michael Wincott, if I'm not mistaken, also voiced one of the evil alien leaders in one of the Halo games, maybe. Anyways, yes, Michael Wincott is the man. That's where we're at. Ladies, gentlemen, the emperors in the chat and listening in podcast land, I think that it is time that we move into the segments for Sudden But Inevitable. Josh, if you don't mind, the first of those segments is something that we like to call Shot of the Show. Shot of the Show, as you know, is where we share our favorite visual moments from this week's episode. Those moments that are now living rent-free in our heads. We have something very cool this week, and I kind of don't know how we didn't think of this before, but this is actually born out of a mistake that I made. I failed to explain exactly how Shot of the Show works to Chris and Leslie, so they sent me their selection, and I was like, this is brilliant. We have to figure out a way to do this, and thankfully, producer Josh is here, so he did that. And Josh, just play this quick little shot for us, and as it's playing on the screen, Chris and Leslie, go ahead and talk about this shot.
So, all right. So you see the wine, or whatever that is, like liquor, and then it's going into the gas. The transition there is so seamless. I could not tell where the cut was as I was watching it, and you see it on the loop. You still can't really tell, and the way they rack the focus and everything else, it was awesome. It was one of those. It was like, whoa. I had to back it up a couple times and watch it. And I'm like, that was amazing how they did that. And it's just seeing that right there is like and there's the cut. It's barely even in there. How they did that was amazing.
Yeah, the cinematography behind that was nice.
Yeah.
Right here, like it cuts out.
Yes. It was great. I loved that. I loved how they did that right there. And it was just one of those things. It was like that right there was one of those moments. It really just kind of took me back. I'm like, whoa. That was awesome.
Ricky D, do you notice at the start of that clip what is happening in the background? Like,
yeah, the sex.
Yeah, the town of Pounding is just being arrived at.
Yes. They're taking their exit.
Yes, they're
taking
the off ramp has arrived, and it's time to tend into driving metaphors.
That's amazing.
Our friend Steve says Game of Thrones had one episode that had 3 or 4 of this kind of shot, and then never again. I'll actually, since we're talking about great transitions, do you guys remember in the movie Highlander when I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself, Ricky D. Josh, if you don't mind, Ricky, put your headphones back on. I was just kidding. Jeez, sensitive much? Thank you, Chris and Leslie, for that selection. That is a beautiful thing, and that's the first video pick we've ever had for Shot of the Show here at Sudden But Inevitable. So, milestone. Josh, if you don't mind, share Ricky D's shot of the show with us, and then give us the time code, and then Ricky D, talk about your shot.
Yes, Ricky D's shot comes in at the 32-minute and 15-second mark.
Yeah, this is obviously Vicious sitting in his really cool room that I was appreciating earlier. This is he's sitting there. He's trying to decide what he's going to do about, he just killed Kaching, and he's he's broken the orders of what he was told to do by Stax, and he's just sitting there going, okay, what am I going to do? He's still got that confidence, but it's also very misplaced confidence, and he's not sure where to take it. And Spike is entering the room behind him, and Spike is going to solve this problem for him.
Yeah, and the way you said that made me really think, oh yeah, because then Spike kills him here, which he almost does, but he doesn't. He gets really close, and Spike, I think, does recognize. You can see on John Cho's face that killing Vicious would be the easy way out. But Spike, still carrying that weight, thinks, okay, but that's not the right thing to do in this crazy
just
backwards
one
set
more-
of circumstances.
One more quick thing about that shot. If you pay attention while they're in Vicious's weird black bedroom thing that he's in, lots of sculptures of naked male torsos.
Yes.
Really
freak-
interesting.
Frequently a sign of power, I believe, in art. I think there's also an illustration of the crow that he always has on his shoulder in the anime, in some of the art on his walls, which I really appreciated. Our friend Steve has shown up, ladies and gentlemen, just to say #this is my Vicious. I'll point out all he's doing is wallowing there, Steve, but I'm not hating. Josh, if you don't mind, bring up your shot, give us the time code, and then talk about it.
So mine comes at the 14-minute and 42-second mark. Hear me out.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
this is the second that Julia comes off stage, and she's riding this high from singing for the first time in front of a crowd. Big thing, she's flapping her hands. I had to make sure that her hands were like messed up in this because
Motion
I wanted
blur?
to show that she's like, moving them, because that is me when I was 16 years old coming off stage for the first time in front of a crowd of people, like doing a good job at a show, and that feeling of just like that thrill, that high, that the endorphins that just spill out after doing that. I felt that watching her, get all giddy after her performance. So it's a relatable scene for me, and I really, to see that like magic in her eyes where she's like, oh my God, I'm so excited that I'm doing something that I love. It's really cool. So that's my shot for sure.
I really like that. And Josh's music is a little different than Julia's music, right?
Absolutely.
But Josh's corset is exactly the same. His hair is just as long, and he wears his necklace plunging, if I may.
My belt buckle does
So-
have a bottle opener on it, though, just,
Yeah.
because duh.
I could
Yeah.
see
You're
why you would
practical.
identify with that shot, Josh. 100%. I agree with you. And so does our friend Phil in the chat. Excellent choice. If you don't mind, bring mine up and give me the time code because I don't remember what it was.
Jesse's comes at the 28-minute and 3-second mark.
Oh, man. So this is right after Chris and Leslie's pick. This is the moment where Vicious, this is his Rubicon flaming gangster, right? Like, he cannot go back from this point, and he's totally fine with that. He's going to just light this guy on fire in the street. He gives 0 Fs. He's got his lieutenants standing there watching it. He's like, what are you going to do? I'm Vicious, and I operate like this. And I can't get over the balance of color and light and flame and dark and shadow in this scene. I love it. You've got blue, you've got white, you've got black, you've got orange. It is just a beautiful, beautiful shot. Josh, I don't know if you had a moment to get our friend Angela's shot ready to go, but if you did,
It's really hard for uncultured swine to do this kind of thing. But here you go,
but
Angela.
you managed to do it. Look at that. We've got Julia on stage. She is wrapped in honey, and she is taking us all to Mars. That is an excellent, excellent pick, Angela.
I really like that shot.
Steve is wondering who all is still here. Steve, the Dunphys were here earlier. It's possible that they're asleep, but they were here at some point, I promised. And Angela says you nailed it, Josh. Well done. Thank you. I believe that brings us to our second segment for the week, which is something that we call No Finer One-Liner. No Finer One-Liner is the sister segment to Shot of the Show, where we share our favorite moments of dialogue from this week's episode. Josh, go ahead and give us Chris and Leslie's pick first, and then they can walk us through it.
What was my excuse last night? Last night, I was too young. Night before that, I wasn't rich enough.
Well, what can I say, hotshot? I like them old, rich, and fat.
I mean, come on. The whole banter was just great. I mean, you get a sense of who these people are. You get a sense that they've known each other for a while. They like to play with each other.
There's
and
a
everything.
chemistry there.
And you know, there might be a little bit of a hint at, you know, who she's with or liking at the moment, you know, or sleeping with, whatever. But it was, the chemistry there was fun, and it was one of those things. It was like, it made both of us laugh. It's like, yeah, that's got to be one of our favorite moments right then and there. That favorite line. I mean, that just works.
I really like that. It doesn't really feel like either of them is flirting to get anywhere, right? They're
Right.
flirting because it's fun, and
Mhm.
they're like, we're just doing this because we both know that this ain't going anywhere, but it is fun to do. So
Yeah.
I feel like they really conveyed that difference between like actual flirting and like, you know, buddy style flirting, I guess you could call it. Callie is here. Her mother is too. So don't just be making things up and throwing them in the chat, Sinacera. You could really offend people. That's
I'm technically streaming through Facebook to give us an extra viewer, so
Oh,
I'm
there you
also in there.
see,
You can't let people know that we're cheating like that.
you risk being assaulted in the chat by Ricky D if you're here live, ladies and gentlemen. Again, that's youtube.com/twistmyarm podcast every Friday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Steve does point out that this episode finally gives... Oh, you know what? I'm not even going to mention that right now, Steve. Josh, please play for us your selection for No Finer One-Liner.
Oh, this one is specifically for Chris and Leslie. Because that music fill is a line in itself, and it's incredible. That
love
whole
it.
scene, the drummer, like the whatever drum set he's playing, it looks like he's playing on 2 floor toms, which is, you know, awesome.
Yeah,
then
I
you got
didn't
like
notice, didn't notice the 2 floor toms.
Yeah, right. It was weird, but it had a great sound to it. That little fill that he does, and then it goes right into the trumpet, and then there's a piano, and then like it's such a cool like back and forth between instruments that I had to make that my line of the show.
It works. It was great. And that was the one thing, you know, I talked about before, the music, how the music was going and everything else, and how it shifts so many different genres and everything else, but it always works. It always works for the scene. It always meshes together wonderfully. So yeah, that worked.
I love that pick, Josh. Very, very well done. And Callie D in the chat, no need to apologize. We just wanted Steve to know what was going on. He seemed very lonely. And our friend Smallville Sky is still here too. And he's just very happy that Josh was able to throw in a How I Met Your Mother reference. So, Josh, if you don't mind, give us Ricky's pick for this week.
You're an embarrassment, meaningless slug. His only achievements come from the doings of others. Oh, how I dreamt that one day you would prove yourself to be man enough. But alas, I should have ended you long ago. But here you still are, by some miracle.
Yeah, so I picked another long one this week. So I was watching this entire episode just going, Vicious is the most evil, vile piece of crap ever. He's toxic masculinity, he's male fragility, he's all of these new woke terms that you can just identify so clearly with him. And I'm just going, God, he's a bad guy. But then we see this scene with his father, and his father's telling him he's worthless. He's a slug. He could never accomplish anything. And I'm like, holy crap. Growing up with a lifetime of that, and then dealing with a future lifetime of that, because it's not like he gets to run away when he's 18 years old. He's in business with his father So he's going to have to deal with that every day going forward. And I'm just like, that would make a monster. That would turn a good man very, very bad.
Yeah.
Note to self:
I
do
like-
not purchase swords for Ricky D's birthday. Go ahead, Leslie.
I like the fact that it was almost Shakespearean in nature. It's just like it reminds me of a soliloquy almost.
Yeah.
I think it goes, but alas, you know,
I
it
mean,
was like
that's the power of John Noble, right? Just-
Exactly.
very Shakespearean.
Yeah, the gravitas in his voice is just like yeah, everything that he says is just imbued with this like actual just I don't know what the word is for it. It's like vinegar and it's like he actually hates the people he's talking to. He's a really good actor because I don't think he,
Well,
he's-
he actually hates them.
He's so conniving about it too, because he's like, "I'm so proud of you for doing what you did last
Oh.
night." And then Vicious is like, oh yeah, they talk shit." And then John Noble's just like, pop, punches him in the stomach, and he's like, "You are a piece of crap."
Yeah.
And then just like proceeds to shit on him over and over again. Like Ricky was
And-
talking about how Vicious was so crazy through this whole episode, and it's like, well, John Noble enters the chat and just
But it's like-
destroys him.
You got to think John Noble would have just ended Vicious here himself if Spike hadn't just wiped out the entire competition, right? He'd be like, I would have to kill you if he hadn't killed everyone. Like,
Yep.
you are so lucky, and I still do not love you. Josh, go ahead and bring up my selection this week, my friend.
To hell with all of them. The elders will see. They're gonna say I've done the right thing. We need to put the fear into those Neptune savages.
Whatever happens, happens.
Sorry to cut you off earlier, Steve. That was why I didn't finish mentioning your comment. You made the same pick that I did for No Finer One-Liner. I just had to include whatever happens, happens. Fans of the anime will know that that is one of Spike's most famous lines, and it gets dropped here in a way that isn't meant to upstage the original. It's not meant to be a cheap copy of the original. It's clearly paying its respects and just being its own thing. He's not trying to intone the same voice as Steve Bloom or anything. I love this moment. Spike is always cool. He's always cool, you guys. Whatever happens, happens. And we couldn't get through this series without picking that, right? And I feel like that might be all there is to say about that. Now, having done so, the last thing that we generally do with these episodes, my friends, is we rate them out of 10. We slap a grade on the episode. Josh, what do you got? I'm sorry. Oh, did you get
one more
Angelus's
thing.
pick?
Some voice. Some woman.
Yeah, how's that for uncultured swine?
Excellent pick, Angelus. I feel like Josh may have been offended at the beginning of this. But yes, I mean, again, the voice and just the honey on that voice is, it's difficult to get over how enjoyable that scene is.
And I like how Spike is going for one angle and Vicious is going for another angle with like their compliments. You can kind of see the difference between the two.
Well, and I think it immediately illustrates the difference between Spike going, "I'm falling in love," and Vicious going, "I must possess this person."
Right.
Really quick, Steve says, "I love that the Neptune clan was Scottish. It's like they left Earth and found the furthest highland they could get." I did really like that. Angelus says Josh has redeemed himself, over-redeemed himself. He has been forgiven. Now, all of that out of the way, my friends, what we do last is we get a rating from everyone, and then we build a letter grade out of that, and then we get on out of here. We skedaddle. So, since Chris and Leslie are our guests, I will take a rating from both of you out of 10. Let's start with Leslie. What did you think of this episode?
Well, not considering that, I had no idea what was going on at first, and I'm based on just this episode. I give it a solid 8.
I like it. I really, really like that. Chris, what do you got?
Well, the whole time I'm sitting there thinking about it, I was like, all right, what am I going to rate this? Are we going to do a sidebar? Or, and then you said we're going to, do the rating separately. And I'm like, okay. How, I'm thinking the visuals, I'm thinking the music, I'm thinking how it got me going, how, the whole episode just, engrossed me and everything else visually. And I also have to go with an 8.
What?
That's exactly what I was
Marriage
thinking.
powers.
I was thinking 8. I was like, yeah, and a solid 8 works. And all of a sudden you're like, solid 8. And I'm like,
Marriage powers.
and that's why we're married.
I really like that. They both measured the same score, ladies and gentlemen, and thempers in the chat and podcast land. Josh, my friend, what do you give this week's episode?
It's a tough one because I really like this episode. Everything about this episode, the music, the backstory, the violence, the action scenes, everything about this episode is really good. And I hate to do it 2 weeks in a row, but I think I gotta go with the 10. I think I gotta do a 10 out of 10 because I'm a sucker for story. I'm a sucker for backstory. I'm a sucker for all of that continuity stuff. And they gave that to me this week. So last week they gave me my favorite villain in an incredible story, and this week they give me just a fantastic prequel, basically.
Pardon my language. You're a serialization bitch. Go ahead, Ricky D, with your rating for the. I don't think you disagree with that, Josh, and I don't mean it in a disrespectful way.
Change my name right now in the. You can follow me on Twitter at serialization bitch.
All right,
Ricky D, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 9 out of 10. I loved this episode. Yeah, I don't know how much else to say. Julia was amazing. I love the way her character went from almost 0 to fully fleshed out in this episode. A lot of fun. 9.
I really like your reasoning behind that, and I couldn't help but notice that you had to pile the words Julia and flesh into the same sentence, and I'm okay with it. I also can't really say that I'm surprised. So let's see. We've got an 8, an 8, a 10, and I'm sorry, you said 9. So let's see. You guys, Josh, I know that I didn't put my rating this week on the score sheet. I
was just looking at it and it's not there.
I think I'm going to have to give it an 8 as well with Chris and Leslie. This isn't an episode that I have a bunch that I dislike about it, but it's not perfect for me. I think I agree specifically with Leslie. There are a couple instances where I'm like, it's a little bit slow with the pacing. That doesn't make me angry or anything, but it does kind of put me on like I can't call it 10 then because it's not perfect. I do love the episode. I feel very emotional when I watch it. I'm of the mind that while I love getting these scenes with Spike and Vicious, I didn't need them. I kind of inferred all of this had happened from the anime, right? And I think that's what they wanted you to do in the anime. And I understand that given the chance to expand on the backstory between these two characters, they felt the need to do it. So I don't hold that against them at all. But I am going to give it an 8, which gives us a 43 out of 50, which rounds out to an 8.6, which, if I'm not mistaken, was also our score on last week's episode. 2 8.6s in a row is not bad. And, I mean, this show, I am having so much fun with this show. I don't know if we've had an episode of this under like a 7 on average so far, you guys. I really don't think we have. But, you guys, we did it. We talked about episode 9. Before we wrap everything up and get out of here, and I hear from all of you about where people can get more of you, I'd like to tease that next week, for our final episode of the live-action Bebop coverage, our good friend Philip Krogmeyer in the chat will be here with us to close out our coverage of this series. He is, of course, the Cowboy Bebop superfan resident here at the Twist My Arm Network. He's a friend of the network, and we nearly demand that he is available when we do Cowboy Bebop adjacent things.
Or even Quest Me.
I just really anything. Philip knows all, and that is why we have him. Our friend Angelus in the chat gives this a 10 out of 10 because of Julia. That's good enough reason for any of us, I think. Nobody will disagree with you on that. So, as I said, be sure to catch us next week. Same time, same place, youtube.com/twistmyarmpodcast, 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Chris and Leslie of Measuring the Score. If the good folks out there would like to get more Measuring the Score in their life, and I gotta say, I highly recommend you do that, what would be the easiest ways for them to go about it?
Well, you can go on Spotify, you can go on Apple, you can go on Good Pods, you can find us on pretty much anywhere you listen to any podcast platform that you can think of. I'm pretty sure we are on it. Just type in Measuring the Score, you'll find it, and you'll see something a little line talking about a husband and wife team tackling your favorite film scores. And yeah, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Mainly on Twitter at Measure the Score, or Facebook. Just type in Measuring the Score podcast, and it'll be me or Leslie on Facebook. Leslie?
Yes, what he said.
Speaking of what he said, I have to throw this up again. Our friend Phil in the chat says, "Thank you, Chris and Leslie, for being here. You were awesome." I gotta say, Phil, go listen to Measure the Score. There is definitely the kind of content there that you will enjoy. I promise. Josh,
It's one of my favorite podcasts to listen to right now, by the way. I've listened to most of you guys' catalog at this point. So just
I haven't seen
Have you
Tremors,
listened
but
to
I
the
did
new episode
listen
of Tremors?
to the Tremors.
I have
episode.
not yet. I have not. I need to do that one.
That one
but
was
most
fun.
of
That one
that's
was
for sure.
fun.
Josh,
I hear Sean really likes that movie.
if the folks out there want to get more Josh in their days, what would be? I love you, Sean. I don't know why they feel the need to pick on you. If people want to get more Josh in their days, how would they go about doing that, my friend?
Right now, the best way to do it is on Twitter at TwistMyArmCast. Facebook is, you search Twist My Arm Podcast, you'll find it. Actually, it's Twist My Arm Network now. I'm sorry. You search Twist My Arm Network and you'll find it. Just like our website has changed from twistmyarmpodcast.com, it is now twistmyarm.net. Because it is a network, not just a singular podcast anymore, which is crazy to me. I was actually doing this episode earlier. I was like, holy shit, this has changed so much in the last 6 years. It's gone from one single little podcast that came out every week or two with absolutely zero following. And, I put it up there because I love doing it, not because people listen to it. And now it's to a point where people are actually listening, and it's amazing to me how much it's grown. And I can't thank you guys enough, Jesse and Ricky, for being a part of this journey. Speaking of journeys, I'm going to be a little out of commission for a couple weeks. Next week, obviously, I'm going to be here for the season finale, but I am making a move across states. So I'm going to be very busy. So if you want to get a hold of me, best way to do it is on Twitter. And I am going to start booking some cool things here soon as far as like podcasts go, and guests and things. So be on the lookout for that. Follow me on Twitter for all of those updates at Twist My Armcast.
Josh, I gotta say, our friend Angelus says that getting his shot of the show and his one-liner in the same night and the same rating that you gave the episode, either you're an enlightened host or he is an uncultured swine right alongside you. #BroCode. Talk about.
We should
full
start a
circle.
band. What's up, Denver? We're uncultured swine.
I gotta say, I really appreciate that full circle joke there, Angelus. And we gotta say hello to our friend Roy in the chat, the Intrepid DM. He made it. Thank you for coming here after your stream, Roy. We really appreciate that. If you have Twitch and you watch anything, go watch the Intrepid DM there. Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. If the folks want some more of you in their day, what do? They unmute
He's
themselves. And then
Ricky D's got to
we start
unmute
over.
himself.
It's okay.
I'm
And
going to
then
try
he'll
this
be okay.
again.
Nice.
You can find me on Twitter at BestFlixRickyD. You can find me on the Twist My Arm website. You can also find the Best Flicks podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all of those good places. And that's where you can find me.
I am excited to go find you at those places. And I got to point out really quickly, Josh did say he is going to be taking a little bit of an availability break to make the move. Ricky D and I are not taking the same availability break, so get ready to watch some movies that I think you are going to hate, my friend. No, I'm serious. We'll pick something out that you like this time, I promise. We are probably going to do another little bonus mini season. It'll be shorter than our last movie season, but then currently the plan is to jump full on into Death Note for season 4. So get ready and watch those social medias to see like all the teases and stuff that I'm about to start putting out there. You know what? All of my credits and places to find me are going to be in the read that happens after the theme song kicks in, so I'm not going to put those out right now. What I am going to do, though, is say, let's go ahead and sign off for the evening, my friends. Chris and Leslie from Measuring the Score, thank you for joining us. We are so happy to have you. Ricky, as always, thank you for putting up with me. Josh, thank you for pulling all the levers and making everything go. So for the sign-off orders, my friends, let's go. Chris, Leslie, Josh, Ricky D, and myself. So for Sudden But Inevitable, I have been Jesse.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Leslie.
This is Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D.
And I'm Josh.
And we will see you next time, legally sanctioned interplanetary vigilante. Now.